Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I am going to start a disc-bound album, and I'll do the decorating of the album in a separate video. So in this one, what I'll make is the cover, which is going to be with the help of Helen Griffin's new Simply Made Crafts disc-bound album cover die set. And then I will use the, it's now named the Small album, but I picked this up at a really good price because this is the, kind of the first iteration of the Small album. It's, technically this set is called the Portrait album, but it's the same size as the Small album. So what I'm gonna do is actually follow the instructions to adapt this cover, which is designed for the medium size album. But on the back it does tell you that you just need to cut down the cover to 4 by 3/4 inch wide. And if you want to hand cut the entire cover, that's easy enough to do. It's 6 7/8 by 4 3/4. And so here are the pieces I've already die cut. And I am going to assemble this a little bit differently to how Helen assembles hers. So I do recommend checking out her video to see how she puts hers together, and that way you have some different options. So I have 4 of the cover pieces instead of just 2. I've got 2 of the belly band pieces, I have the pocket, and I have the spine. The cover pieces have been cut out of 100-pound cover weight. The spines are the same, 100-pound each. This is black cardstock that is, I believe, 65-pound, and this is black paper leather. I think it's Craftex brand. But you can get any brand you'd like. Even the Craft Stash has a variety of colors out now. And so this is paper leather, which is great because it'll be nice and durable. And that's all we need for the cover. So what I am going to do is I've already gone ahead and reinforced all of the score lines. The die puts the score lines in place for you, but I always like to just run them through my scoreboard again, just so that I have a deeper impression and I can get a better, more crisp fold. So all of these will just fold down as a mountain fold. And I have, that's the pocket, this is the spine, and I've already put double-sided dry adhesive on all of the glue tabs. And I'm going to, the paper leather is pretty flexible already, but I'm still going to use my pencil bone folder and just in the palm of my hand just burnish this a little bit just to give it some curvature, and that way it can kind of curve around the discs. But being a paper leather, it's already a really flexible material, so but it's very, very durable too. You can't just rip this. And our 2 glue tabs also have score lines on one end. And then I've got my cover pieces. So I think what I'll do is I'm gonna make the darker brown the outside cover and the lighter brown on the inside. So what I'll do is first glue one of the covers to our spine here. And I do like to use a combination of double-sided dry adhesive so that I get an instant grab, but I like running a line of liquid adhesive over top of it. That way I get a nice permanent hold, but It also gives me a little bit of wiggle room if I need time to sort of adjust. And all I'm looking to do is I want to make sure that it's lined up at the bottom so that everything's nice and flush, but I also want to line this up right against that score line. And that way I have a nice squared off cover. And you can use the help of I like to put it on my table so that I know it's nice and straight. You could also use your grid lines on your craft mat. So long as it's a nice straight, like if you fold this back and everything lines up, then you're in good shape. Okay, and then once that is in place, give it a really good burnish. You really want to burnish well so that you can, in the case of the dry adhesive, knock all of the air out. And in the case of the liquid adhesive, really spread that liquid adhesive so that it's nice and evenly spread out, and as well starts to really push it into the papers. Okay, and so find it helpful to attach it this way, because then I know the bottom edge of my covers are nice and lined up straight with each other. Okay, that looks good. It's standing pretty well, so everything looks nice and flush at the bottom. So I'll go ahead and burnish that. So the nice thing about using the paper leather is it's really nice and flexible, and it's going to be nice and durable too because it's tear resistant. So the glue tab here, I want to cover up. I want to cover that up with another piece of the cover. So what I always like to do is put a little bit of double-sided dry adhesive on the outside edges. That way I can get adhesive as close to those outer edges as possible. I think that if there's going to be any sort of lifting, separation, it's more likely to happen on the outer edges first. At least that's where it would be most noticeable. So it's a lot easier for me to get dry adhesive all the way to the outer edge than it would be to get liquid adhesive, because liquid adhesive is just going to kind of ooze everywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll peel all of these up. And then I'll get some wet adhesive on top of it. And this is going to also, it's going to have the benefit of covering up the glue tab, but it also has the benefit of strengthening the cover too, because each layer of the cardstock is 100 pounds. So stacking two of them together gives me something nice and sturdy and nice and substantial. And they are cut to the same size, so I should be able to just stack them up like this, line them up, and it all should match 100%. And then I can burnish. Alright, so that was my front cover. Now, if you happen to use maybe a pattern paper instead of a solid color cardstock for your cover, then you want to make sure that the piece that you just attached, first off, that up is facing the right way, but also that this was your front cover, because on the back cover, there are some additional things that we need to do to this before it gets glued in. And this is where I deviate the most from how Helen actually assembles hers. So in hers, what she does is she just has the single layer, and then she glues the pocket. If you just fold these over, she glues the pocket right on top like that. Since I do have this extra layer, what I am going to do is I'm actually going to glue this long glue tab behind the inside back cover, and that way I can avoid having this glue tab be that little bit of a lip that prevents you from sticking something into the pocket. If it was glued on top like this, when you slide something in, it's often gonna hit that first. And there's things that you can do to kind of remedy that, but because I have a separate panel that's just going to get glued into my cover, one of the easier remedies is just to glue this behind that panel. So I will go ahead and get a bead of liquid adhesive here as well. And then I'm going to situate my panel right up against that score line, and then I can just fold this over. Okay, so there's that. Now this wasn't designed to wrap around this entire panel, so anytime something has to wrap around it, you need it to actually be slightly larger so that it has the cardstock to go over. So I don't want to score that again in order to get these tabs to be able to wrap around. But in any case, what I want to do is I actually want to glue these two tabs to the front, because it's going to naturally kind of have that space right there. And that's going to make it slightly easier to slide things in. So these two tabs I will actually glue to the front. And then the end result is that ultimately it's going to be a lot easier to slide things in and out of this pocket, because we don't have that little catch point of the glue tab here. We have these that add just that little bit of extra space in the pocket so that you can slide something in. And there we go. So give that a moment to dry. And ultimately that's going to get glued into our cover like that. So now our belly band, again, this is where my my assembly is going to differ a bit. So only one of these colors will be visible, and should I do the same color or should I do the outside cover? Let's do the outside cover. I'll have the darker brown show up, so it'll look. Actually, maybe I want the. I did this so that I would have choices. Oh man. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it the same color. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna stack these two on top of one another. Even though it's already 100-pound, that's sort of heavyweight, but this belly band is supposed to really help to secure your album into the cover. So by doubling this up, just like how doubling up the cover pieces really adds some strength to the cover, adds some substance and structure, so too will stacking two of these belly band pieces together. You do want to make sure that when you attach these that you end up with a glue tab on both ends. So they are identical, but you don't want both glue tabs on the same side. You want to rotate one so that you have a glue tab on each end. and I will do another squiggle of liquid adhesive. And I'm gonna stack one right on top of the other. Okay. And we'll give that a moment to dry. Although the nice thing with using the combination of a liquid and a double-sided adhesive is where there was double-sided adhesive, that's already grabbed on pretty firmly. And even though the wet adhesive hasn't had a chance to dry yet, I can still continue to work because I've got the double-sided adhesive holding it tight. So now I can position this belly band where I want, and just note the belly band is slightly taller than the cover. So what I'm gonna do is I will wrap the two glue tabs around to the back, but I'm not gonna put glue all the way to the edge because this is a little bit taller than our album cover. So I think that's gonna be plenty. And then I just need to decide, where I want to position this. And I'm just gonna eyeball it. Maybe I'll aim to get it centered. But I am gonna definitely try to center it top to bottom. So it's gonna overhang a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom as well. And when it looks about right, I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over. So you have that liquid adhesive. I'm gonna fold that over, and I'm gonna hold it for a second because there was no dry adhesive, so I do need to hold it and give it some time to dry. But you can kind of see that's the belly band, and our cover is gonna slip in there. Now what I can do is just add some double-sided dry adhesive to really just the top and bottom because I already have some adhesive on the two long edges, so just need some there. And then I can glue this panel into our cover. And that's how quick it is to make the cover. So once you have all of your pieces cut, it goes pretty quickly. So I'm gonna, again, just run some liquid adhesive all the way around. I'm going to be nice and generous because you do want this to be well stuck down since the album is going to slip into this. And again, just going to line everything up. Everything should attach nice and flush. Okay, that looks good. Perfect. All right. So now I can burnish this all down. And that is the album cover complete. It's not completely dry, but it is fully assembled. It just needs to be decorated. And so I will decorate in a separate video. So let's set that aside to hang out. And let me show you how to create the pocket pages for our disc-bound album. Okay, so now for the album itself, I will be using I have the portrait album die set, but this is the same size as the small album by Helen Griffin. And so what I'm going to do is I just need the largest die. Now, if you have the newer small album, the configuration of how you make your page base is a little bit different, even though the end result is the same size. So I will show how to put together this one. And the other die that I will be using is the album disc binding die set. I'm going to take the medium size one. and I've already cut that out as well. I have that here. I cut this out of paper leather, which is something new, something different that I'm trying just to see if it's more sturdy, because ultimately what will happen is we're going to take our normal pocket page. This is going to be a top loading pocket page. And instead of attaching this to your binding on a normal album, we're going to glue the disc bound strip inside that pocket page. And then this will get attached to the discs. And because of the nature of disc binding, one of the benefits to it is that you can pull the pages in and out really easily. But if you do that and this is just plain old paper, then it could tear over time. And so if you want something that's going to be a little bit more durable, say these are planner dividers, for example. So you might have, papers in between that you tear out, but your dividers you would maybe want to keep. Maybe you would want to move them around, shift the order of things a little bit. And so the more you pull it in and out, the more wear and tear there will be on these little mushroom holes. And over time, it might tear completely. But paper leather does not tear. So I'm trying this out to see if it's a nice durable solution. So that's what we're aiming to create, and these are the pieces that we need. I am going to first start off by reinforcing the score lines. The die will put in 2 score lines, one that is for the glue tab at the bottom of your pocket page, and the other score line is for the the outside edge, basically to fold this in half so that you get a pocket. And even though the die puts score lines in, I always like to reinforce them because it makes it a deeper score line so that I get a more crisp fold. So these both just need to be mountain folds, and also it helps to prevent cracking also. And then I will burnish down. So I am going to start off with putting some double-sided adhesive tape. So I like to put this not right up onto the score line, but pretty close, maybe, just a fly's eyelash away from it. And so I've got one there, and then I'm gonna put 2 on the binding strip. This is black cardstock, so it's a little bit hard to see, but this also has a score line on it, but that score line is not meant for folding. It's actually meant for positioning the edge of your page right up against it. So I don't need to rescore that, and I don't need to fold it either. But I do want to get my dry adhesive nice and close to that outside edge so that we don't get any lifting if we can help it. And the order I like to assemble this is I like to attach the binding strip to one edge to start, because I find it a lot easier to just line up one side at a time, and then once that's in place, I can worry about attaching it from the other end. And for me, this is just easier and a lot, I get a better result this way. So I'll run a bead of glue right along there, and then I'm just aiming to line up the edge of this page with my score line and just really try to get that on nice and straight, because you need this to be straight in order for it to flip nicely. So when we have it about where we want it. And the liquid adhesive helps helps give you that little bit of wiggle room too. But the dry adhesive is going to give it a nice firm stick so that I can just continue to assemble this and not have to worry about it slipping a little bit or nudging some more. But now that that's in place, all I need to do is just close off this pocket. So I need a bit of liquid adhesive on this bottom glue tab and a little bit on our binding strip here. Okay. And it's as easy as closing this, because now that that's straight, it just needs to be closed off and everything's gonna perfectly line up where it needs to line up. And so that's our page complete. So the other thing that I put together in advance is I did assemble all of my pages. The other thing that I put together in advance is this. This is not a pocket page. This is actually, and you can maybe see, it's a slightly different black also. It's not quite as dark black. And this is actually a 100-pound cardstock. I took the same die. I cut it in half. I cut off that bottom glue tab and I just glued the panel to each other. So this is 2 layers of 100-pound cardstock with the same binding strip. And the reason for this is this last page, it's not really going to get decorated because the entire purpose of this back page is really just going to be to slip into the cover. And so you only see that much of it. So why, waste one of our lovely pocket pages on that? So that's why I've just made that nice and sturdy from slightly thicker cardstock, because it's not going to have additional mats and layers to make it feel substantial as a page. And then I can have something that's really strong and sturdy back here. But I have actual functional pocket pages for the rest. And at the moment I have 5 pages, which I think is going to be plenty for what I want to use this for, which might be like maybe a little notebook for keeping some notes, maybe jotting down ideas for things. So once we have this all assembled, the cool thing is that you kind of see those discs popping out from the spine. So the other thing that I want to show before I wrap this video up, which will be part 1 of 2, in my second video I'll decorate this, I went ahead and created some notebook pages. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these pocket pages for maybe separators for different things. Like maybe I have one section for design team assignments, one section for, the different teams I'm on, and another for maybe ideas for mini one-sheet wonders, whatever the case may be. And so what I've gone ahead and done is cut out some notebook pages from just plain old copy paper. And then that way I can take notes. If there's anything I want to save, I can save it. If there's anything that's kind of, not relevant anymore, then I can always remove it. If I start writing in the wrong section, I can always move this to somewhere else. Maybe I have a neat idea for a design team project and I think, oh, that might make for a good idea for mini one-sheet wonder. Well, I can take that page out and then move it to my mini one-sheet wonder section of this notebook. So that's, I think, what I'm going to use this for. And so what I want to show is how I created that. So let me bring out my guillotine and show you how I cut down those pages. I've got a stack of copy paper here, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 sheets here. I'm going to cut them all at the same time. And the first cut is going to be on the 11-inch edge at 6 1/4. If you cut it the way I'm cutting it, you'll be able to get 3 notebook pages from 1 US letter. So that is 6 1/4. And then turn this and then cut at 4 1/4. Okay. And I'm going to leave them in stacks of 7 like this. Then with the bit that's left over, you just need to trim this down to 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, whichever order you want to do it in. So I'm just going to, again, cut 6 1/4 and then rotate and cut at 4 1/4. Okay, so just a little bit of waste, but not a ton. So we have this, but we need to get our holes in the exact same spot as the pages, the album pages that we created earlier, so that it fits in this specific spacing. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the exact same die. And I think I can cut through all 7 in one go. So I am just going to tape these. This is just removable tape. Use something that's low tack. But I'm going to tape it at the top and bottom to help keep everything together. And you do want to have a, you're going to need a large platform machine for this, because I just don't know how you're going to be able to do this on a, on another machine, because of the fact that we need to do a partial die cutting, so that could be harder on a smaller machine, with just 2 small plates. But what we want to do is, this needs to be the outside edge. So remember that this was a glue tab that we glued our pocket page onto. So this has to be the outside edge. So when we go to position this, I've just got a bit of removable tape on this end. What we want to do is line up the edge of my papers, my copy paper, with the outside cutting edge of the die. And I put a little bit of tape here, so I'm going to just push that down to hold it in place. And you might notice I've got this bit of tape running along the back of the die here. Why is that? So that actually, if I remove this for a second, that line of tape actually matches up with the score line, because I don't want to cut a glue tab into my pages that's just going to cut off strips. So what I want to do is I really just want to die cut the holes. So I am going to line this up again and push down on the bit of tape that I have here. And so once that's in place, I'm going to die cut with the die facing up. I've got the 2 ends of my little washi showing there. And what I want to do is I want to line up my cutting plate so that it just touches the bottom of that washi tape, so that it's really only covering the portion of the die that I want to cut, because anything that's sandwiched underneath the top cutting plate, that will get cut. Anything not under that cutting plate, it will not get cut. And so that's kind of why you need a larger platform machine, so that you have the space to line this up. And so I'm gonna hold this tightly and then put it through my Gemini. Okay, so here we go. Now I can remove this. So you can see it's cut through. Just have to push these pieces out. And you might find that maybe 7 was a bit ambitious, maybe sticking to about 5. Some of these cut through just fine all the way. It looks like the outer ones cut through all the way, and the inner ones, there might be 1 or 2 sheets that didn't cut through. But I can always either try to manually cut them, or if you happen to have, maybe you have mushroom hole punches for other disc binding, but if you don't and you want to use this die, the thing is that I haven't tested, but every disc bound punch, unless you can customize exactly where you can position it, the spacing might be a little bit different. And so for this to work in our album, the spacing actually has to match with everything else so that it all can fit together. So there that is. So I think I ended up with, I think this cut. So I might have ended up with 2 pages that didn't cut all the way through. So maybe a safe bet is 5 sheets at a time. Kind of depends on your die cutting machine, what you think you'll be able to cut in one go. But that is how to get some notebook pages for your disc bound album turned into a notebook. And what I thought I would do is what I'll use to decorate this with is the Not Too Shabby Paper Pad Club of the month for April. And this one's called Life Begins After Coffee. I love every single design or pattern in this paper pad. I think everything is just gorgeous. Of course, I love everything coffee, so it's probably not a huge surprise if you watch my channel. You probably could have predicted that I would absolutely go bonkers over this paper pad. So that is what I will use to decorate my album with. So I'll go ahead and when that video goes live, I will make sure to link it to the end of this one so that you can actually see me complete this album. And I'll save that for different videos since this one's already pretty long as it is. So thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.